Mark Schmidt with Avaya, and Avaya is a market leader, unified communications, video communications, contact center, software-defined networking. I'm going to talk today focusing on the contact center piece. Actually, it's break down the barrier of the contact center. That implies that the contacts are centralized somehow, and that is absolutely not the case. So we're here to talk about customers and, in fact, the customer journey. So a picture of me there. Now, I'll go through this quickly in the sake of time, but, that's me. But actually, if you take the full context, an important word in customer service, understanding the context of the picture, zoom out there, on a street there in Hanoi, eating some street food, and talk about the customer journey, because for most of you, your businesses are probably a little more complex than where I'm eating there, right? I'm judging it based on, are there other people eating there? Does it smell good? Is it something I'm interested in eating? In which case, usually the answer is almost always yes, despite how I might look. I like to try lots of different foods. I might judge it on the basis of the height of the stool that I have to stoop on. That is an important one for me. But for your businesses, there's much more going on. Now, from an Avaya perspective, I'd like to talk about 3 topics today. And the first topic of the presentation is change. And the second topic of the presentation today is change. And just so I don't get in any challenge with the lawyers who might be representing Fight Club or the distributors of it, the third topic is engage. Now, what do I mean by that? The first is very much tying into what Morris just talked about. The only constant is what? The only constant, of course, is the cliche, which is the only constant is change. And this is so true, right? And Morris just highlighted that very, very well. I'll talk about why that is especially challenging from a business perspective. Change your measures, as Morris just mentioned. Changing your measures can help lead to changing your culture. And culture, at the end of the day, is what is really going to matter and define the winners and losers in many cases. It's not to say there is a right culture that's a winner, but there's a right one for your business to serve your customers. And it's important you think about that as you look at how you're doing customer service. And lastly, engage. And I'll give different examples today of what we'll call the art of the possible. You've already heard some fantastic ones of different things that are possible with technology. I'll bring a little bit, some of that back more down to earth, some things that are simple, sound simple, but we know aren't that simple. And as well, some things as we're going forward, a bit of the vision about how Avaya is changing and hopefully helping change the overall technical landscape for you and your customer engagement. So, the customer journey. For many businesses, looks something like this. Customers decide to buy, or if you're in a public service, it might be just more an awareness of your service and using the service. If you have products or services yourself, they want to find it, buy it, own it, use it. And of course, there's many steps along the way of the journey, right? So doing the research, making the decision, and of course, within each of these steps, lots of different tasks that may be happening. Now, in some cases, for some of you, for your products, the customer journey might be shorter than the time it took me to go through that, right? They might have seen you online, click a button, buy, boom, PayPal, I'm done, right? So it could be that quick. For others of you, this is very long. It's multi-year, and ideally it's renewing contracts at the end of those years. So the customer journey, one way to view it here, and as well, it's important to understand that it's not just about that one customer journey. There's lots of customer journeys that have gone on. And talking about Avaya technology, of course, our technology is now mobile, web-based, virtualized, cloud. Have I mentioned all the buzzwords I need to yet about what's possible? Okay, I won't belabor them here, right? But all of our technology that I'm going to be talking about today, of course, can be virtualized, can be run in premise-based, private cloud, public cloud leveraged, okay? All that's possible and mobile enabled. Fair enough, okay? Big data, the other big buzzword. And I mention it here because when we're talking about the customer journey and what you might want to do to improve it for your customers, a lot of people look at technology from a start now, go forward perspective, right? To say, and there's some great vendors out there talking about different technologies along with us, Avaya, and people think about it, well, I'm going to buy this and tweak and change my business. The customer journey is one area where you should understand you've probably been doing call recordings, for example, in your contact center for years, maybe a decade or more. Now, how much of that you kept is up to your storage policy and regulations, but a lot of people are not leveraging the previous customer journeys to learn about going forward. They start too often thinking about, we're going to put this technology in place and let's have a go forward. Well, big data is all about looking back. So this is just a small tip to say, you already know a lot more about how your customers are experiencing your business than you probably give yourself credit for and you've probably leveraged. I talked to a customer recently about what they were using big data for, and they were talking about, well, we have distribution, and we're tying it to weather patterns, and we're understanding how things are going on in the social environment, and concerns about things like Ebola, and how that's impacting everything. And I asked, well, have you looked at all the, you have all these recordings you've done over the past 5 years because you're legally bound to do it. Have you gone through that and mined that to understand how people are interfacing with you through all these different channels? And they hadn't really thought to do that, right? There was all the big sky thinking. Well, in fact, there's a big sky out there, but many people aren't looking up at it. And it is all this customer journey information that's already there. Of course, what matters is leveraging that kind of data, turning it around to impact that individual journey so that that customer feels like they're dealing with one company, and ideally you as a company understand them as one customer, no matter how many different products and services they use. So leveraging that big data to know what is my next best action, right? If they're that step on the journey, what is the next one? When I'm talking to them again, what's the best way to be dealing with them? But again, as I mentioned at the top, it's all about change. Everything's changing. And one of the elements about change is the measurement side. And there was an article in Harvard Business Review, now going back 4 years, in fact, but it fundamentally changed the way Avaya deals with our customers, and I'll talk about that a bit later. And it was called, Stop Trying to Delight Your Customers. Stop trying to delight your customers. And the point of that was, instead of focusing on delighting them, focus on solving their problems or getting them what they want as quickly and easily as possible. And of course, in turn, in the end, that is what delights them, right? But if you focus on delight at first point, then you're doing lots of soft skill trainings for your agents and be happy, and even if you're only on a voice call, smile because the customer can hear that, and all these nice, wonderful things. But in fact, the customer just wants to get whatever they wanted from you. Do it quickly, do it easily. So one of the measurements that's becoming increasingly important is what's called customer effort, a customer effort score. So let me ask here quickly, how many of you do Net Promoter Score business? Net Promoter Scores, okay. Customer satisfaction scores, all right. How about customer effort score? Far fewer hands, yeah. But this is what's going to be making the difference going forward, measuring customer effort. Now, the books about customer effort will say there's 2 measurements that you should do. One is a scale of 1 to whatever, however your normal measurement is done, of how easy was it for you to get what you wanted. So 1 to 5, whatever it might be. And they say the second question should be the one that puts it in context. That is to ask, was it easier or harder than expected? To put that, star value, 1 to 5, into some sort of context of, well, is 1 to 5, is a 3 good or not? I would propose to you, start with the second question, right? Why ask a question at first, which is more or less a trailing indicator? Well, our customers are telling us it's a 4 on terms of ease, and now it's starting to slip to a 3.5. Does that really matter? Well, who knows? Just ask them off the top. Was this easier or harder than you expected it to be to get what you wanted? That's what matters. And talking to Morris just ahead of the talk here, he had a great idea, right? I've heard it before, but sometimes you have to hear it multiple times, and that is about employee effort. How easy is it for your employees, your customer service agents, or other people in your business to get done what they need to do? These are the measures going forward, because the customers, this pack of wolves that we saw already, the customers are already changing how they measure you, right? I don't know how many of you know the webcomic XKCD, written by Randall Munroe. He's a former NASA roboticist, excellent physicist and others, but also a very funny guy. He's actually speaking here in London over the next couple days because he just released a new book. This particular comic isn't really, I'd say, well, it's funny, but it's more an observation of how are customers now judging you and your business. I know I've used this before, but this is his take on it, right? The 5 stars, right? If you got 5 stars, yeah, that means your mother's probably put in a review of your business. That's nice, all right? 4.5, probably excellent. 4, okay. Everything else, not so good. Let's be honest, right? That's how we're looking at the world. And the customers are quick to judge, right? One bad journey, that can spread. The other side of change, and this brings me to the next part of change, another one of his comics here. I'm not one of those who's put my wrist free yet, but his is his take of how the world is now changing with regard to watches. Okay, so right now we're in that brief, glorious period where we're not tethered to something on our wrist, but that is soon to change, right? When the smartwatches come. So lots of things happening. And I mentioned about the change side, and I'll tie here now to some examples of some of our customers. So there is a trend in change, and the meta trend, of course, is there'll be a new trend. Yeah, just wait for tomorrow. So there's the user side and the business side. Now, the business side is already challenging enough, right? You have all these different regulations and challenges, and there's strikes and things you have to deal with in the business environment and the climate that you work in. You have to respond to your competition. You've got all kinds of different technology that's out there, right? So not just Avaya, right? I know we don't exist alone in any of our customers. Lots of other technologies. But if you look down at the user side, this is where absolutely a burning pace of change. And I just updated the chart here to add WhatsApp and Snapchat, other elements that are, other technologies out there. How many of you have heard of Hoobadoop? Hoobadoop, social networking? It's good no one raised their hand because I just made that up just to see if anybody was, okay. Just to make, but you never know. It might be there probably by the time I'm done. Register the domain today. So pace of change is incredible. And this is what you see from business landscape, right? And a lot of that is driven by the top change. You have your own internal initiatives you're doing. You have regulations you've got to deal with. I do think actually regulation is becoming increasingly important just because technology has opened so much up that almost anything is possible. Now the walls of regulation actually do start to matter, right? How quickly can you get to that wall, and is there a way around it? So this is very tough. Now, the Avaya value prop in all of this, okay? And the Avaya value prop of this is that, I would look at this from a how perspective. As I said already, we know we are not going to be the only technology in place. In fact, very often there's going to be some of our competition that's in place in your business or in one of your partner businesses that needs to be integrated and we need to work with. Fully aware of that. Third parties, competitors, that's what it's all about, is helping to be that glue that can tie all that technology and information together so that when you do need to have that conversation internally or with your customer, you have the right people involved with the right information at the right time, and usually, of course, that right time is typically right now, right? So that is Avaya's ethos, is being open, it's being mobile, it's embracing new technologies, but being able to integrate where we need to help your business. So, art of the possible. A few examples here of customers doing things, again, some that might sound amazing, some that sound very basic, but if you look into it, aren't so straightforward, right? So, and all of these have to do with change. So companies that had some technology, had some infrastructure, had their own processes and people already in place doing things, and they needed to adapt and needed to change without doing a full rip and replace of that technology that was already there. And that's one thing I would certainly say is, is that technology you invest in shouldn't just be about solving today's problem. if the technology you're investing in is only about today's problem, that investment is not going to be worth much in a couple of years, just because what it was there to address is going to move on. The technology you invest in to enable your business should be able to adapt to that change. And that's what these technologies here have done. So people putting video contact centers on the rise. We have a number of them running on Avaya technology, not only face-to-face with an agent, but a lot of automated video as well. Customer in the Middle East and now also in the Far East, putting these into ATM machines. We have customers here in the UK doing this from kiosks in branches. So being able to provide expertise from a kiosk. Someone comes in to talk about mortgages. It's not easy to always have a mortgage expert at each branch, but easy to find the mortgage expert who's somewhere else, provide high quality experience of that conversation. Contact center outsourcers deploying our social media technology to automate the filtering, understanding, processing, routing, and response for social media. Premium brand manufacturer. This is a very common scenario. In this case, they had a lot of these in-room video systems from various vendors that they'd acquired over the years, Polycom, Tandberg, and they said, you know what, we'd like to leverage those more. We spent a lot on them, but people don't use the rooms that much. Well, it's because people want to use video wherever they are. So they leveraged Avaya's Scopia video technology, which you can see outside as well, with mobile desktop video, and that actually, and we can integrate with those third parties, so actually it increased the usage of the third-party room systems they'd already invested in, because now they could have video conferences with people from their mobile phones and from their desktops, and tie it back into the room systems when that made sense. And a large technical university, they had, of course, Microsoft in place, as many customers do, many businesses do, and they had it for IM and Presence, but they had a contact center. They wanted to tie that in. They wanted to leverage Avaya from a telephony perspective, voice perspective, all the call recording, mobility. So we integrated there with Microsoft Link on their desktop. So I know I talked about how before, but it comes back to, okay, well, how does, why is it now possible to make a lot of changes without having a big upgrade expense, right? Or having to go to RFP just because I want to add a new communication channel. And that's where the nature of technology has changed. The nature of technology, so here automated services used to be your IVR, right? Your hard IVR platform, with all the different scripts and voice prompts and everything else. Well, now that's all software-based, of course, and now it's also application-based, meaning what we've done with Avaya on our, what we call the Experience Portal, is on the same exact platform where you used to do just your basic inbound voice, we now do all the different channels for automation. So taking in emails, responding to emails, SMSs, integrating with mobile applications as well. So the ability to do what Morris was talking about there, you have your mobile device, instead of calling in and waiting and going through a menu tree, go through the tree, go through the questions right away through the application, click a button to talk, and all that information automatically moves into the contact center, right? And it's not only inbound, of course, it's also outbound. Where we're going now, into the future, is advanced real-time services also becoming application-based. And this is exciting because this is an area where if you wanted to get to a new version of skills-based routing, for example, in a contact center, you would have to do typically a big upgrade. Well, now it's about changing some application at the core without having to change the rest of the ecosystem. So different services that are now becoming what we call from Avaya snap-in, applications that we're writing, but also our partners and our customers as well writing to do different kinds of services like Expert Finder and leveraging room-based, leveraging building management systems to get location information, as an example. All tied in so we know who is available and who we should collaborate with. Tying in WebRTC. Many of you may have heard this protocol, buzzword, right, that's up and coming. So how do we leverage our existing infrastructure without having to change out all the investment that's gone into that, but enable WebRTC? Well, it's going to be an application running at the core, so addressing it from your customer side or internally, but still going out the other side to the existing infrastructure that's in place. And of course, real-time speech analytics I'll talk more about very quickly. So, Consumer Empowerment 2.0, to consumer engagement. So I just put a couple of points up here very quickly. So you may have seen this in the news last year. Somebody got upset with British Airlines. British Airways, surprise. But their bags were lost. And instead of just posting about it, tweeting about it, and everything else, or writing a song about it, and putting it on YouTube, he decided to buy some sponsored tweets. And these sponsored tweets went out to everybody following British Airways. So if you happen to be following British Airways, you actually got a direct targeted ad to you, which said, British Airways is not that good. So you think about that now, that's something, again, in the past, someone would have to be pretty upset to buy some airtime on ITV or some commercials or billboards just to be upset at one company. Well, now I can say, you know what, I'm just going to send the ad to exactly everybody following that company. So that's changing. On the other side, Tesco Mobile here, right, about consumer engagement. This is, I really like this, right? I have to say it's cheeky, I guess you would say, yeah, but it's somebody here saying, well, not very cool if a girl is using Tesco Mobile as their service provider, and somebody in Tesco Mobile, right, had the empowerment to write back something which I think is quite clever, right? And in fact, it turns out from a social media perspective, telecom companies are leading the way. They are the most engaged, monitoring, responding. So if you want to see what might make sense from a policy perspective and maybe even push the edge of the envelope in terms of how you can engage with your customers or critics, you might want to look at the telecoms industry and see what they're doing, because they've already learned a lot going through that process. I put this up here because this empowerment and now consumer engagement, how we engage the customer, it really does get down to your internal business processes at that point, right? So who has the authority in your business to send back a tweet like that, right? Are they empowered? Do you have checks and balances in place that are there to make sure that happens? And this gets to the point that any communication, like I highlighted before, is usually not one and done. Even if it might be one and done with the customer, that probably means multiple communications internally to get that process that they've kicked off completed. So from front office to back office to mobile, how is that happening? So a big part of this is around automation. So how we can leverage automated services. So one of Avaya's customers, the largest U.S. retail store chain, just as an example, they send out over 400,000 SMS messages per day to inform customers of pending purchase, pickup purchases, and the status of an order, right? In terms of the scale that this can go to. And of course, looking for the responses of those SMSs where appropriate as well. Pushing the envelope there from a complexity perspective, I mentioned a bit of this before, a fashion store in the Middle East, it's a retail store. People walk into the store. They can go, of course, look at the items on display. There's people working there, agents, you might say, floor agents, walking around. They have an iPad with them. And if someone's interested in some item, they can actually show them on the iPad more information, scroll through it. And if they want then to talk to an expert about that item, and that agent doesn't happen to be an expert, it's possible then to push a button, and it'll automatically start a video conference through the iPad to the customer with that expert on that particular item, right? So this is leveraging a lot of different technology, presence information, of course, this expert finder, but also, as it says here, the building management system. So where are these experts at the moment? So what they're doing now is making sure that if they're not in that existing store, they're in another one of their facilities, so they can ensure good network connectivity, quality of service, and also so they're not reaching out to an expert who's, excuse me, headed out the door or driving home, right? So leveraging that kind of presence information all tied together within your routing decisions of who they should be talking to, right? Final example here, utility company, this is the mobile-based application. So improving customer SAT score, excuse me, and reducing average wait time by over a minute with putting real-time business information into their mobile application. So this is another change in terms of how much of your business do you want to expose and put into the customer's hands. So instead of just saying, I'm having an issue with my utility service, click to call, why not automatically show them before they even call, or you have to tell them, here's your wait time if you call right now. Would you rather schedule a callback at a specific time? Yes. So reducing the wait time and improving customer sat by putting all this in the mobile app. And of course, the power of that is once they use the mobile app and then they are contacted or contact into the business, that information is passed through. The context is kept. Speech analytics. This is changing very, very rapidly. So the power of, I mentioned before, looking historically at all the different recordings you might have. Well, what we're doing now is embedding this into real-time speech analytics. So a quick example of this is you're talking to a contact center agent, you ask a question. Today, what you might hear is that agent typing into Google, doing their own intranet search internally for the answer. Where this is headed is an automated agent listening into the conversation, looking for keywords and phrases, and then prompting the agent, or prompting you where necessary, with the right information, helping your business stay that one step ahead of those consumers that are getting faster and faster. Okay? And this, again, is something that's coming from an Avaya perspective, is what we call a snap-in into the core. So again, functionality that can be added without having to take out or do a massive upgrade. This is where it's all headed. So I talk about speech analytics because it was actually a very important part of Avaya and a change we did. And I kicked off by talking about one kind of change, which is change the measurement, change the culture. We did this in Avaya a couple of years ago. And the way we did this was having an ethos in our customer service group that was called Only Work on New Problems. Only work on new problems. So you're a customer service agent, the phone is ringing, you pick it up, that should be a new problem. Now this has two sides of how you can look at that. One is, first call resolution, meaning we don't want to tell someone, hey, we'll get back to you, hang up, right? We want to stay on the phone with them as long as it takes to solve that problem. But it's not only about solving that one customer's new problem. What we mean by this is only work on new problems to anybody. Meaning if we've solved it for one customer, we don't want to have to pick up the phone for another customer having the same problem. Right? So you think about that, and this is a new measurement, a new way of looking at business that changed a culture. And it changed a culture because most contact centers look at measurements like average call handling time. Right? How long did it take? And we want to make it shorter and get more efficient and win a few percentage points of speed that we can, get to the next call. Well, no, let's turn that around. The average handle time in this kind of culture should go longer. It should go much longer because we're not going to hang up until we solve the problem, and I'm not going to close that call until I've documented it well enough that our automated systems can find it for the next customer so that they don't have to come into the contact center, that they'll find it automatically when they go onto our website, either do the search themselves, or what we also implemented here was an automated agent through web chat that automatically looks at what's being asked and goes and does a search and pushes the information out to the customer. So our automated agent called Ava, becoming very popular, right? But that's something that's automatically looking at the questions that are being asked and pushing information back, again, leveraging what's just been entered by the agents. So empowering the agents. So that whole process of, well, let's write a new document, a new FAQ, and a new solution, how long does that take to get out there? In Avaya, we sped that up phenomenally. We made the agents responsible. If you write a solution, it's available, it's published, it's public. So do it well, but do it. So this changed fundamentally a lot of things within Avaya. And in the interest of time here, quickly, some of the results that we saw. So time to resolve improved, our net promoter score, CSAT at that time, what we're measuring. We don't yet have the changes in customer effort because we hadn't started measuring that in that way yet, right? Response times faster, employee engagement improvement the bottom line. Right? Significant changes leveraging the technologies you see on the left, right? But as I mentioned in the previous chart, the technology is just there to enable this kind of change to your business. What you need is to think about the measurements, think about the ethos that you have for your business. Is that driving the results that you want at the end of the day? So We want to get you towards your seamless customer engagement, your seamless customer journey. Lots of technologies can help you do that. We have a lot of that. We have people who can give the advice along with Britannic about how you do that, whether it's large contact centers or small. That's something we've done recently in Avaya. Much more focus on the smaller size contact centers, right? 20, 30 seats and up. Technologies you've seen here available for that size as well as the large of large. And it is all about right people, right information at the right time, but especially helping you adapt to change and helping enable the change you need to make for this new economy. Thank you very much.